So floor is yours, Max. Now you want to drive.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm answering the question. That shit's fucking dope. How do we? Yeah, okay, I shared my screen.
We got you.
I'm starting out by looking at this DAO thing because that just came out for our planet, and it ties into a bunch of tokenomics stuff that we can look at. But basically, this thing, the our planet thing that just came out, says that they're gonna introduce a currency called RDAO, like a DAO token that you can then use to participate in voting. And they outlined a distribution model that's kind of true to form what I was saying earlier to their whole cryptic nature, because one of the chunks here is will be distributed in the future, and this represents 50% of the entire token supply. So that's kind of very arbitrary. But anyway, the tokenomics of this coin are kind of laid out here. So you have a supply of 10 million total, which this
pretty low
is very low. So compared to other tokens on the Wax blockchain in general, but 10 million is less than like Bitcoin has. So Bitcoin has 21 million. It's like half as many as Bitcoin. So in that sense, it's pretty low. But anyway, so they outline like a distribution model. They say 50,000 get sent to like early players of the game. I think they're gonna have a like leaderboard that has information on who crafted and stuff. I'm sure that you'll be eligible for stuff if you've been playing our planet for a while. And then they're doing a sale for a ether for, what is that, 1.5 million. So 15% of all of them get sold directly for a ether. And then they have, what is that, allocated for, okay, so they're going to be incentivizing liquidity pools for people who supply liquidity on Alcor, I'm assuming, to the pairs of RAD, Ether, and Wax. And then they're doing another type of liquidity mining similar to what Nefty Blocks does, because they're going to be introducing a marketplace, it seems. So another 450,000 will get allocated to people buying and selling on that marketplace, kind of like how you get Nefty tokens right now. And then it looks like 25% of the total supply is being allocated to the team directly. And then they say it's frozen and unlocked gradually, but it doesn't outline anything specific or show public like records of what wallets are holding the currencies and which smart contracts are governing the unlock periods, which is usually customary for something like this. So again, it's very limited information, especially considering 50% of the entire supply will be distributed in the future, and then it doesn't really elaborate on that at all. But it does break down. There's the 3 stages, which is the first stage is you'll get airdropped if you've been playing our planet. I imagine that's going to be based on how much ether you've burned crafting or upgrading lands and all that stuff, factored into some kind of score, and then the top scorers will be, distributed the 50,000 currencies that get dropped in this airdrop. Then the second stage is they're going to do a sale where you can buy it directly with ether, and the third stage is that liquidity mining, where you can either farm it by supplying liquidity to the pairs or by buying and selling on their new marketplace, where you'll get a kickback in this token. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. What did you guys think about this? It's very, like I said, it's very limited. I think.
I mean,
so it's kind of like an idea more than a it's fully laid out. Like,
I mean, I speculated you need land minerals, which you need none of, so I'm a little bit bummed about that.
Yeah, I mean, I like that the sale will be in Aether. I think that's good for a spend case. I think that's a very self-aware that they need to have more spend cases for Aether. I guess the questions I would have is, how is that sale going to work? Any sort of whitelisting requirements, what the cost is, and then the fact that half of the total supply is set aside for future distribution, of which there isn't really any detail, I guess, is a big question
as
mark
well
for
as
me.
25% for this. So 75% of the entire supply is pretty much not going to be.
Yeah, so like this initial distribution, really, I don't know how much real say you really get, despite the fact that they tell you you do, because if you were to combine the entire total supply of what's being distributed to players, it is still
they also don't firmly say what it does yet. Like
exactly,
yeah,
you don't know what it does or how it's being distributed for half of it. So
I feel like it's a good
pretty
teaser.
Cryptic. It's pretty our planet.
But yeah, there's like a lot of things. Like at its core, like, this is intriguing, but there is not enough information for me to really have a firm opinion on how much, if any, money I want to spend on this, because it's just there's too many unanswered questions. And then, they say 75% of all sales will go to the DAO, aftermarket and sales, which is really surprising to me. That's a pretty large number. I guess it sort of makes sense because 25% is held by the team themselves, so like that is how they're getting paid, which is probably why their portion is so high. But as far as how they define that, the thing I would want to see is very clear data to show how they made their money, how much money is being distributed, and in what way. And for profit sharing scenarios like that, me personally, I want to see a lot of transparency there. It's something that our planet has proven to not be very good at. So I am leery and I'm open to being surprised, but for something like a DAO, which requires a lot of very clear communication, our planet struggles with that sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely a very bare bone like outline rather than like what I would say is a white paper for a DAO. So
I think it's like a teaser for a real white paper.
Yeah, it's like a nice intro to the concept, but
and I also wonder like they hold 25% of the tokens, so
75. Because half don't even get distributed as this, so they are
still but they can't vote with those. I'm saying they get to vote with 25%. They have 25% of all the votes.
Yeah.
I guess it's unclear what the 5 million will do.
Of the entire
5 million is
supply that will be distributed, the team holds 50%. So even if the entire community were to
it literally says these will be frozen and unlocked so that they keep 25%. Less than 25%.
So all that needs to be more clearly, I think.
But like let's say they get 20%. Like, if it's distributed evenly, can the 80% of everybody that doesn't agree beat their 20%? Like most of the time, and basically, will they still just control what happens anyway? Because like they have such a large ownership of it that like I don't know. That's what I worry about. And like maybe they just vote for their own. Maybe they vote for Tribal Books to get all the fucking Aether because they own most of the fucking RDAO token. Tribal Books is also a weekend project, and they put their own projects in their game so they can sell it better. And I don't know. It really depends on how this stuff's distributed for me if I like want to whale into, because like if it's super evenly distributed, it might be to the point where like nobody has like that much of a say besides their team. Because like nobody can get that large of a percentage, and it's like everybody has these tiny fractions and then they have a huge chunk.
That's the second part of this though, is that let's say all the distribution is super fair and a majority of the token is held by the people who are playing the game the most and all that stuff works out. The next thing that matters is how are the votes enacted? Is it still...
it doesn't say that either. It doesn't say what you get for holding it. All it says is you get a share of their earnings. It doesn't say like what you're voting on, how much vote you get, like what's your weight of a vote for a share. Is it per person? Is it per share? Can I vote 1,000 times if I have 1,000 RDAO, or do I vote once for having it in my wallet?
Is
like,
it
they haven't explained any of that.
One token, one vote. Yeah, you don't know. Or like you have to have a minimum threshold.
It says an option
tokens
to take part in making decisions about the future direction of the project development.
Yeah,
that
it could be like, they could enact like minimums that you have to have a minimum of say 1,000 in order to get one vote or things. Those are things that I guess would be good questions to ask.
Yeah, it's a very cool idea. I'm pretty excited that they're like moving in this direction, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions, I think. And yes, the other thing I wanted to look at was the Wax Arena token, like structure.
The thing I do like about it is how many less tokens there are of that, though. Like Aether has an insane max supply. Aether has a max supply that makes it like, I don't know, it makes it feel like it should never really be worth anything, but it's like, what is that? 10 billion is what the RDAO token is? It's
10
not that
million.
10 million. Yeah, so that's like a really, that's closer to like AXP, right?
So real quick, before we go on to Wax Arena, so how does the DAO token release usually affect the game token? So I mean, I guess in the case of this RDAO, this is a separate governance token that acts in parallel to their in-game token, which is Aether. So they both have different use cases. So how it would affect Aether, I guess, would be based on the idea of what what this governance looks like, and how much does a governance token cost in a ether, and that is all unclear. I guess just to broaden it out a little bit, some other games will the in-game token in itself has dual purpose, that it can be spent in game or can be spent on governance. So in that case, it would be different because the value of the token has two utilities built into it, whereas our planet, they decided to separate them into two separate things. So I guess the how you evaluate that depends on the implementation.
Oh my god.
So anyway, I hope that like gave you some insight here or some clarification.
What the fuck?
But I think a good broad strokes thing would be like for you, Max. Like, what are the aspects of a game token that you look for? What are some signs or pieces of an in-game token or a currency that you look for that are either red flags or good markers, or just to kind of overall evaluate how this economy is set to work?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. From the main metric that I look at when I'm looking at any of these game tokens is the market cap metric, which we're talking about, which means it's the total supply that can exist of the token. So I just bought some AEXP so that I could find it in my list here and pull it up. There it is. So here's a token contract for AEXP. It also has a 10 million max supply. This is so the other part of this now, like circulating supply, will tell you how many of the total that can exist currently do exist and are in wallets on the network live.
Yeah, because
So
in some
now,
cases, a
AEXP
portion of the max supply would be locked for various reasons. So that wouldn't be considered as the circulating supply.
So the really easy way to find like your any token like contract, like I'll find some Ether here. Ether. Am I spelling that wrong? Why is there no Ether?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Let's see.
I think it's picking up some of the
it's picking up like the
liquidity pool tokens. If you do AET,
scroll
down. Oh, there it is. Yeah,
it is. Weird. So as long as I have n amount of this, I'm just gonna buy one wax worth. It'll show up on your own wallet in blocks.io. So if you have an amount of token in your wallet and you're on your Alcor website, you can click, once this moves away, you can just click the number balance next to your name and it'll bring up your wallet on blocks.io. Then you can scroll down and check your token balance. It'll show you all of the different tokens that are in the wallet. So I just got Ether. Here it is. You can click on that and it'll bring up Ether's contract. So here is Ether's current maximum supply. So this can't be changed. Once the token was created, this was set in stone basically. So this is, I guess it can be cut down. It can't go up from here as far as I understand, because they're not all issued. You could close the contract and then this becomes the max supply. But this can't be increased further.
That number's so fucking big.
But yeah,
that's 10 trillion?
100,000 million. So yeah, 100,000 million, billion, trillion, 10 trillion. So there's 10 trillion that can exist, but there's only, here we got 100,000 million, 333 billion exist. So that's not even 4% of the amount that can exist, currently does exist. And it exists in 100,000 unique wallets.
That's pretty fucking. So a lot of people have Ether.
That's pretty fucking. That's
but
high.
You got to remember how many people made new accounts to get Alien World shovels and then just like put them into our planet. There's like hundreds of bot accounts that did that.
Yeah,
thousands probably.
And then you can also see how the supplies are distributed on this like little bar graph. So you can see. Our planet is the stake payout wallet from our planet. This holds, a ton of the tokens right now, and this is probably also where, if this balance goes down below a certain threshold, I'm sure more of these tokens will be issued into the circulating supply into this wallet. directly, so they can be distributed to stakers.
So that's
And
the
then,
wallet that pays out the staking.
Yeah, you will see in your own wallets.
Okay, so when you
get
claim
them,
it, it's being given to you by
it'll
that
say
wallet.
SR
Got it.
Planet sent that to you. Yeah, so that's how you can tell that that's what's happening here. And then you can find your own wallet too and see like what place you are on the leaderboard based on how much Aether you have, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so here we can see this has a supply of 10 trillion, right? So in comparison, AEXP's supply was 10 million. So this is like, what is that? 100,000 times more than AEXP. So basically, comparatively, if both of these currencies were worth the same thing, that would mean that 100,000 AEXP should equal one. I'm sorry, 100,000 Aether would equal one AEXP at that point, basically. So if you want to see, like I pulled up a few, what are they called?
Yeah, I think seeing unique wallets, and I think also looking at which wallets hold the token too are good rules of thumb, because you
That's
can
definitely the
see
main
100,000
thing
unique holders, but 50% of it is held by different contracts that, or even say even more than that, say like 80% is held by different contracts that are owned by the team in some way, shape, or form. So even though there's a lot of people that hold some of the token, the vast majority exists in a small subset, then maybe that's something you should look into, or something that is worth exploring.
Yeah, and now here's something to consider as well. So now we're looking at AEXP. This is from Wax Arena. This is the 10 million max supply, and it already entirely exists. So this bar graph that shows such a large wedge, 54% being held by one wallet, is misleading in the sense that that large wedge of SR Planet was only representing 3 or 4% of what could exist in that wedge. So this one, because for our Planet for Aether, the circulating supply did not entirely exist yet. Whereas that is what we're seeing in this graph is the full distribution of the entire existing supply, fully diluted, because it already entirely exists and therefore is part of this bar graph. Whereas when we were looking at Aether, we were only looking at about 3.4% of the entire total supply that could exist, and the bar graph was just representing, as if that 3% of what could exist was 100%. So if that was actually fully diluted on Aether, the bar graph, the SR Planet thing, would be like 99.9% of all of the wallets, and you just have a little sliver for everything else. So you got to know how to read this, since this looks like it's much heavierly centralized into this wallet than the Aether was, but it is not, because the supply already exists, and the person issuing the supply cannot print more of this, which you can tell by this max supply thing here. So another metric to compare is there's only 2,000-ish holders of this token right now. That can potentially be good or bad. So it's like good in the sense that there's a lot of room for much more adoption of this currency, and since it already all exists, that puts a lot of pressure, supply demand function. The supply already exists, so if the demand goes up, so does the value as the supply doesn't go up. That function is not the same as Aether, where the supply continues to go up, and
it's issuing the supply as the demand changes.
Exactly. So the supply is dynamic, whereas this supply is now fixed. That, and what now matters beyond what we are looking at here, which is the total supply, and is the distribution model. And we know that AEXP is distributed by playing Wax Arena, and it takes quite a bit to mine a significant amount of it. So, I don't know, all those things factoring in, it's like it's hard to get. It all already exists. The total supply makes sense for the current value. Those things make me interested in participating in owning a gaming currency. So one metric that is referred to in general trading is the market cap. So I'll show you, this is Wax, for example, and Wax has a market cap of $500 million, and a little over $500 million. And what that means is the current price of 32 cents per wax times the entire supply of 1.7 billion wax equals this amount of money. So when you keep that in mind, that would then also be how you should value or take a look at the current value of these game currencies, and try to equate that to what the current market conditions are in the general crypto world, for example. So here we're looking at the total crypto market. Like Bitcoin sits at the top here with a market cap of $1.1 trillion. And that is, the cost of one Bitcoin at $32,000-ish dollars, times the total that exists right now, which I think is like 19 million or so, close to 19. I think it's 18 something. But they'll be mined slowly over time, and eventually 21 million total will exist. So it's, the supply and demand function is understood, and the distribution model is known, and that's why the price is, settling on these values, and this market cap isn't going to fluctuate insanely crazily, like you would expect to see in these game currencies. So, for example, if we compare that to that Farmers World token that I was like fascinated by the other day, it's like FW or something. I bought one just to have.
Is that 9 trillion meme tokens you have?
Oh yeah, a metric shit ton of those.
I am the meme.
I like just dicking around with some tokens and fucking with like I was doing it with the rich tokens too, where I'd bought like 100 million and sold them for like an insane amount of profit. Oh, actually I think I sold that fucking thing because I bought it for 1 wax and it went up to like 4 wax. But anyway, let me just buy it back and find it. So
we'll do it live. Fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. Here we go. So what is that? It's like F Farmers World something, like FWW, right? Here we go. So if I just grab one of these.
That's also one of like 3 Farmers World tokens. I think that's the wood one, Farmers World Wood, if I'm not wrong.
So this is just one of these tokens that comes from this Farmers World game, which I was trying to understand why people are spending thousands of dollars on these NFTs. And so the token itself, if we refresh, I'm going to look down. So now I should see it in my wallet here. FWW. So look at this. This token has a total supply limit of 50 billion coins. Right now, 10 billion of those, 10,300,000, currently exist, and only 15,000 wallets. So this is only 20% of what could exist, currently does exist, and that 20%,
holy shit,
almost 100% is held by the one wallet. Like 99.98% is held by Farmers World. So let's just do a little bit of this math right now. So this is 10 billion of these tokens exist, and on Alcor, one of them is trading for
0.19
5 wax.
Oh my god!
For a single one.
Oh, 1 wax is trading for.
But how much do you earn from playing the game? Like, what is
Oh yeah, I mean that would be like a second part of this, the distribution you do want to look at. But what we're looking at now is the actual value in the current value of this asset, and what that value looks like given the potential existing supply of the asset itself. Not just the potential, but the actual existing supply right now. So 5 wax each, and right now this wallet is holding 9,900,000,000. This is times 5 wax. So this is worth more than all of the wax that exists by an enormous margin. Like,
that's insane.
Since if we're looking back, so basically let's actually do the math here. It's 5. What's 5 let's do calculator. 5 wax is like 31 cents right now, right?
More or less, yeah.
So it's $1.55 times. We'll just go with the 10 billion, not the 50 billion that could exist, but the 10 billion that currently do exist. That means that at a dollar value, is worth $15.5 billion. That wallet holding those assets, pretty much.
So I
and
guess
where would that fall on our current market cap chart here? That means 15.5 billion puts it above Avalanche and below Terra, below Luna here.
So
it
Farmers
would be
World
the 12th
is more
biggest.
valuable than Uniswap. That's what that means.
More valuable than Uniswap, more valuable than all of the Bitcoin that's currently wrapped into Ethereum through the WBTC protocol, more valuable than all of Litecoin, all of Binance Coin put together, all of Algorand, all of these coins.
All of Matic and Polygon.
Yeah,
I think is
what
bullshit.
The current value.
There's no way Farmers World tokens more valuable than these tokens that have like
I guess
millions and millions and millions of dollars in them and have
the commentary from that is like it's not realistic for Farmers World token to be that valuable. I guess is the takeaway that I would get from that is that
So then yeah, exactly, because it could be like the thing is like, well, it comes down to the distribution. How hard is it to get these tokens and what's the demand for them? Sure, you could argue that, but the thing is, the fact is that you're setting yourself up, or you're setting this wallet up to make their best move to be to rug pull and just dump all these coins onto you. Because if you could do that and make $10 billion,
why would you not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so then the next question, as you're investigating this project, right, in this context, is that what is that wallet that holds 10 billion? How is that being distributed? Are those tokens locked? Are those tokens in a smart contract that only distributes them based on a certain set of criteria? And has that smart contract been vetted? Has it been audited? So those would be like the questions if you really wanted to try and like understand the value of Farmers World would be how can I trust that this 10 billion token isn't going to rug pull now? So if that 10 billion can only be sent, like for example, like our planet, when a command is sent on the blockchain that X person is claiming these tokens, and it only distributes those tokens when that function is being called, that makes sense. What is the depths of this smart contract, and who, if anyone, has audited it to see if there isn't other loopholes in there? And it is relatively common in the crypto space for third-party auditors to look at smart contracts for big dollar value games like this, to give some people some general sense of understanding for people like us who can't. I mean, I don't program. I don't know how smart contracts work.
I mean, the thing though is
like impartial audits and third-party contract audits that have happened on the other projects in the same price point as far as the token value are like no contest. Like there's lists and lists of independent audits done on like Uniswap's smart contracts or on the WBTC protocol. But I've yet to see that stuff, and I guess I haven't been digging super deep into it, but I haven't seen much of that stuff for most of the games that come out in the Wax blockchain.
Can you go on that contract tab? Here, go up contract. What does that do?
Yeah, so he does have a contract that you can.
I just wonder, is there a thing built into blocks that shows any like audits that people can list and find on the blockchain? I know certain other, like Etherscan, you can see that.
It's definitely a pretty substantial contract too.
This is like all the gameplay. This is like
this is how you
could
play Farmers World on blocks if you wanted to through these contracts.
Yeah, our planet has the same thing. Alien Worlds. That's why I started playing our planet, because I was like, I was talking to Bonds, actually DMing him directly. I was like, hey man, like how do I know that if your website goes down, I'm not just fucked and I can't get my NFTs unsticked out of your website? And he's like, oh, because the website is just talking to blocks, like it's all through blocks. And then he sent me the tables like stake and unstake through the R Planet thing, and like I was like, okay, well if I can do it through this, then I don't have to trust that your website works because the blockchain works. So like, that's basically every game has that. Alien World, same thing. They have their thing. You could mine through that instead of their interface. Their interface is just
and that is a good sign. So they're not gatekeeping access to your tokens, right?
Yeah, the thing that's missing for me is, even if all of the distribution stuff is sound, why is the token cap so high? Like, why 10 billion?
The other thing is the NFTs are the NFTs are attached to the token price. So if you think that token price is massively inflated and it might collapse, like maybe don't buy the NFTs. But again, not financial advice. That's why I'm not buying the NFTs, because like that's one of 3 tokens. One of 3 tokens is a top
All
15
worth that much,
market cap, and if you add all 3 together, that's like, oh, that shit's as valuable as Bitcoin or whatever. No fucking way. Like, get out of here. Don't. And I'm not going to buy NFTs that are attached to a fake value of a token, which I know it's super speculative, obviously, not financial advice. Got to keep saying it, but like, that does not seem real to me. It doesn't seem sustainable, and it seems like when our planet was printing money, like that's what Farmers World is doing right now, and it's going to collapse hard at some point. But also, it could not. Like, it could do anything. It's a free market.
Yeah, and like Fate tokens also like.
So I
not
guess there's
fully
like
distributed
50. There's 50 billion, right, for that Farmers World token, right? So 10 million is circulating and 50 billion, or sorry, 10 billion is circulating and 50 billion is available total for that contract, correct?
Right.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So there's a bunch, like you can check all the tokens that you have though. Like, let's see, Capone is like the land mineral token from our planet. Also hundreds, thousand, million, billion, 10 trillion, just like Aether.
Yeah, like I did the math on AEXP. So like the current value of one AEXP is like 45 cents in US dollar. And then so the total market cap of a 10 billion supply that is currently all available puts it at about 4.5 million total. So if you compare, that is a reasonable number that makes sense for the size and scale of Wax Arena, in my opinion, as opposed to a whatever absurd number we came up with. So I guess for context to compare as far as that supply, I wonder. I guess our planet would be hard to calculate simply because
the rates are constantly changing.
The rates are always changing. And it's kind of a moving target because they're always refilling that staking contract. So that one is kind of tough. But you know, 4.5 million for a game makes sense.
Yeah, but like
billions of dollars, 15 billion for a game
stretch.
does not make sense.
Especially a game that's been out 2 months. Like,
like that is just my knee-jerk reaction here. So I'm not perfect by any means, but there's a lot of red flags that come up there.
I saw all that at the front end of this. I saw all that at the front end of this, and look, I missed out on all of this upward action because I saw the value of the currencies when it was here, and I was like, nope, there's too many of these, I'm not going to buy it. So just because these metrics are what they are doesn't mean the currencies can't make you a ton of money.
Yeah, it's not to say that
the markets haven't succeeded rational
and made a shit ton of money on this. It's just but it's to say that these assets are inherently volatile and very speculative, and there are certain things that are helpful to look for so you don't get caught holding the bag.
Yeah, another thing that you want to see is the liquidity in the pool, basically how much is available and who holds it, so you can know that you'll always be able to trade into and out of the asset through this pool. So for example, in this pool tab, you can click on liquidity and it'll show you that right now there's 110,000 wax worth of liquidity in this pool. But that's not, knowing that isn't enough. You need to know who holds the liquidity. So the way I do this again is like I will add liquidity, just a little bit of it. Like for example, if I want to know that for Fate Wax, I can add a tiny bit of liquidity, then go back to my wallet on blocks. Oops.
Oh, I see. And you see who holds the most contract tokens.
Yeah, because I get the liquidity token for that. So now if I look for my Fate Wax token.
Oh, it's at the top in the middle?
Top.
One more over to your right?
Fate Wax, there it is. So now I can click on this, and this will show me the distribution of the liquidity pool. Oh, and look at that. I like to see that, where it's multiple different people are contributing. It's not a single wallet.
You get paid Fate for providing liquidity. They have liquidity incentives for providing Fate, and that's why it has a nice liquidity pool.
So then also it's like, well, there's not many holders of Fate at all. Very, very few holders. 117. So this would be something that I would be more concerned with as well. Like, so you want to look at all of these metrics as a big picture kind of concept, where it's like, what's the total supply? Oh, and again, I'm sorry, this is the holders we're looking at here isn't for Fate token. This is for people participating in the liquidity pool. So right now there's 117 people in this liquidity
Yeah,
pool.
liquidity providers, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not to say that Fate token doesn't have many holders. It's that there is only 117 of the holders are participating. But I do like the distribution model here, meaning that not one person could pull all theirs and sell all their Fate and then make it so that the price is collapsing while I cannot pull out anymore, which would be the case in currencies like, I don't know, where if somebody owns like 90% of the liquidity in this pool, if they were to pull the liquidity, suddenly you wouldn't be able to trade anymore without suffering
Yeah,
like,
and now
huge
you're-
price losses.
Yeah, exactly. There's no foundation left for the value of the token to stay consistent.
Yeah. And
Somebody
then
asked if you do Taco, Max.
what was that?
Taco
Oh,
is a coin. People are asking if you'll look at that.
I got to look into the actual tokenomics of it for sure and like dive into that. But let's see if I had it. Did I have any of those already?
I don't know if they're expensive or anything about
There's one
tacos.
more thing I wanted to mention though before we get into that is the last thing when it goes into buying and selling these game tokens, because a lot of people are doing this stuff on Alcor. It is nice to use the swap, I think, if you don't understand the market order book very well, because the swap will tell you like exactly what you're going to get before you sign your transaction. And when you're using the market orders, you need to be able to understand how liquidity works, or liquidity in market orders works. So like, let's say AAXP, for example, it says it's 7.8 right now. That's a good price. Let's say if I want to sell, look at that. Oh, it's gone up quite a bit. And if I have like, let's say if I have 1,000 AEXP, if I go to market sell this right now and I say I want to sell 1,000, I would expect potentially to get.
You're gonna go way the fuck down there. Look at the.
But if we look at, these are the orders. These are what is currently available. So what would happen if I say sold 1,000, it would first sell 100 at this price, then it would sell 180 at this price, then this, until I've sold all the way down to 1,000. So I would actually
go
sell
to 0.057.
Yeah, there. So I would actually get a price of 0.057, which is
way lower than the
way
swap.
lower than what you're expecting.
Swap right now
And
is
if you-
0.7.
Yeah, and then if
0.7,
you go to
baby.
the
That
swap-
slippage isn't going to go down that low.
Yeah, so then if we look at the swap, it's giving me a price of 0.7, but again, there will be a bit of an impact on 1,000 wax trade, a 2% impact, and I know exactly what I'm getting here. Still a much better deal than a market trade right now on the order book. So understanding what we're looking at here when it comes to market trading, because limit orders is fine. If you're setting the price, you're setting the price and it'll fill at the price. But if you click market trade, it will fill every available order. So you need to be taking a look at the available orders currently on these, whatever side of the book that you're filling. So if you're filling one into the red side here, you'll be looking at the green ones. And if you're filling a green order, you need to look at what's available on the red side. But you need to understand that these prices are going to change as the volume of your order comes through. So if I were to do 1,000, you would just see this candle plummet all the way down as I eat all these orders. And that's something I feel like. Oh yeah, I got my orders waiting down here. So if it spikes back down, I can do that, and then I have them waiting at the top too. So I set limit orders to try to like catch the up and downs of these markets, and then.
All right,
walk
here
home with the difference.
I just found the one for the breeders token. I put that in private chat if you wanted to dive into that one, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, Burst of Energy said you should look at Breeders and Wrath of Tesca as well. And
ESB Breeders token. So this one's already like significantly more scarce. 20 million is like, again, you're close to Bitcoin.
hardly any circulating.
Yeah, only 67,000 are out there in 1,000 wallets, which is pretty decent for such a small cap token, it seems. I'm not sure what the actual value of it is right now, but, and then again, we can see the distribution of these. Van is up in here too. Very even distribution. There's not one account that holds anything, but again, we're looking at the distribution of 67,000 of these tokens when 20 million can exist. So
that's such a small percentage. This is like a fraction of what's ever going to exist.
So this is still not a clear enough picture to really make an assessment, I would say, on the actual value of this, because whatever the market price of this asset currently is, is based on a circulating supply that isn't representative of what the total supply could be. Similar with like a lot of these projects. So this is so far from what the max supply is that like I would wait to assess this more like on a fundamental level.
All right, I put the taco one in private chat too. I mean, we won't go down a huge rabbit hole where we're just like, hey, Max, tell us about tokens, but like this, anyway.
The way you could like the mitigation factor for this would be if the distribution model for these 20 millions is set in a way like, for example, with Bitcoin, where, you know, over the next 170 years they are issued slowly at a predictable rate, and that's why there's currently only this amount, and we know that, you know, 10 years from now there will only be 1 million of them so far. That might change my opinion on the circulating supply, because that would then indicate that sure, there's a finite amount, and then basically we have a currency asset with an inflation rate, but the inflation rate is known. And as long as it's known, you can factor that into your strategies when it comes to investing.
Yeah, as long as you like the circulating supply, is there a consistent, quantifiable way that you can expect that supply to change, I think is the key. And that's where white papers come in handy, and well-written white papers come in handy. Like, say what you will about Alien Worlds, but Alien Worlds is very clear about their distribution model. Whereas, like, you know, and full disclosure, I have a lot of Our Planet assets, but like Our Planet tokens, I you know, can be kind of frustrating because the modeling and the supply of like that DAO token we just read, it's like I don't know what to expect from this at this point. It's still really vague.
I think I gotta start winding out here, since Paul's gonna be back with food in a second, and we gotta get ready to head to our thing after dinner. But I'm pissed now.